Webinar, start webinar. Hey everyone, welcome to our Tuesday the 9th session here at the Purposeful Project. I hope you guys are all excited for today's topic. It's all around e-commerce. We're just going to give it a few minutes whilst people join. I hope you guys are excited. Feel free to pop questions in the chat. If you're watching our live stream on YouTube, please feel free to pop questions in as well. Myself and Talia from the team will be looking ahead. I'm just going to give it a few minutes for people to join, and then we should get started. Pop a question in there in the chat for you guys. How's everyone's day been out of 10? We've got an 8 in there. Got 8.64. All right, Chris, I see you shine in. Sophie's in there with an 8 also. All right, guys, let's start the session. Welcome, everybody. This is our first event of November. As you guys know, if you tune into this series, every other week, we try to provide as much free value in the form of a panel or a live event. In October, we had 8 events. In September, we had 4 events. And this month, we have 5 events, all for free. It's entrepreneurs helping other entrepreneurs, telling you guys stories, tips and tricks to help you improve your business. We also bring experts in to come in and kind of give you the playbook that you need to kind of be relevant on platforms that they represent. The last session we did community. We had people from Circle. Today's session's on e-commerce, and we have an individual from Shopify. So we're really trying to bring you some of the best industry leaders from the market to come and talk with you. I'm very excited about today's topic and today's context, because later this month is actually Black Friday, we have Cyber Monday, and we have Christmas sales happening in just over 6 weeks. This is a very, very busy time period for all businesses, whether you're digital or not digital. I think post-pandemic, a lot more businesses are now doing digital trade. So I'm hoping that this conversation enables us to get through a few different things. One, how can you build a brand awareness? Two, understanding your target audience and email marketing tools are out there. 4 and 5 are conversions, working with influencers, and then the final one is how to handle promotions. I'm BJ Malenga. I'm the CEO of Purposeful Project, and as I mentioned, we exist to help entrepreneurs for free, and we're on a mission to help 10 million people. So whether you're tuning in right now on our YouTube, you're tuning in right now here on Zoom with us, please feel free to jump in and ask any questions, because we're here for the next hour to provide as much value as possible to you guys. A little bit of introduction about everyone who's joining in. Zlatko, he's from Shopify, as I mentioned. But prior to that, he was a serial entrepreneur. He still is an entrepreneur. He's been in the tech business industry since age 24. We've then got Sophie Barron, who is the founder of a UK-based parent and baby digital startup called Mamamade. It's a very fast-growing direct-to-consumer business, which I hope you guys stay tuned to hear. Originally, she's from New York, and she came to the UK to undertake her PhD before becoming head of operations at a fast-track tech company. And then we've got Handy Hooper, who will join as a final panelist, who is CEO of the Global E-commerce Experts. And they exist to help businesses find solutions that enable them to improve their e-commerce output. So I hope he can kind of give us a couple of tips and tricks around navigating the rules here in the UK around Brexit, and also just generally the marketplaces you're in. Without further ado, I want to bring up Zlatko to the stage, or Z, as he's known by friends and colleagues. So Z, if you can kind of take off your mic and join us, that would be great.
Hi. Hello, guys. Hello, BJ, and thanks for having me today.
I can't see you at the moment.
Hello.
I can hear you, but I can't see. Yeah, there you are.
Super. Hi, guys. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining, and thanks for having me, BJ.
No, it's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. So we obviously have given you a couple of questions to kind of run through. Would you like to have the stage and run through them yourself? Would you like me to ask you the questions? We try to make this as short as possible.
Yeah, it'd be great if you can lead up with questions. That's great. Yeah.
I suppose one of the first things that we probably should start with is kind of asking ourselves the kind of journey of e-commerce for yourself. What's been the journey for you? You obviously now work at Shopify, but tell us a little bit about how you've ended up where you are now, and some of the kind of key things that have kind of informed and shaped what you do for work today.
Right. That's a good question. And so I started at the age of 24, started my own IT distribution company. We basically moved boxes around and came up with some custom solutions for enterprise customers. We back then produced, which was back in 2003, we produced quiet computing solutions, and the business grew quite fast because we found a niche in the market, and we were trying to build our own e-commerce solution back then because there were very few options. And from there, we moved, after a couple of years, we moved to software-based solutions and our own B2B platform that was lead generation platform, referral-based lead generation platform for B2B businesses. That journey took me to the United States from Croatia, where I'm originally from, and there we raised venture funds backing and expanded the business to the degree. And at some point during the growth, I decided to come back to Europe for family reasons mainly, and some other business reasons. When with my background, I joined Shopify, who started developing in EMEA region, and started working as a consultant with the fastest growing brand in EMEA region using Shopify platform.
I love that you've had a whole journey there in retail, which is quite. It wasn't the shortest. It wasn't the shortest just jump. It was like
360, yes.
And what is your day to day until today?
So day to day entails like pretty much sitting with on board meetings with founders, high level executives that are determining vision and strategy for their international growth, and understanding what their scope is, what their ambitions is, what their ambitions and goals are, and support the best I can, using both my own experience but also the data and experience that Shopify provides.
I love that.
Yeah.
So we had a couple of questions for you. Obviously, I've just asked the bonus questions there, but obviously, people tuning in are probably running businesses. They're probably thinking about e-commerce, or they're probably doing all right in e-commerce and want to go to another level. But what's the best advice you would give to someone who wants to start an e-commerce business, or who has just started a page and they're trying to get the momentum going?
Yeah. So a couple of key things I can think of. I guess whoever is thinking of taking a shot at entrepreneurship, which is not an easy decision, obviously, and starting their own business, like e-commerce is really, really placed as a low barrier. Like there's a low entrance barrier. It allows everybody to take a shot at producing something, bring it up to the world, and start working on their dreams. From the technology side, again, it's the best time ever to try something like that, to start e-commerce business, because there are a lot of platforms out there that makes it super easy for people to get their shops up and running in no time, within 24 days, within 24 hours, sorry, without any coding skills. You can upload photos, description of your product, pricing, and you can start accepting payments like the very same day. So that's the world we live in, and that gives opportunity like to many people. Another thing is when people consider like starting their own business, and here I can speak from my own experience. Like every business I started, and it was like 3 of them altogether, was from my passion, right? Things that I was really, really passionate to work on. Like usually things that you would find yourself doing in a day where you completely lose the sense of time, right? This is what tells me like you're passionate about this, because obviously to pull something off the ground, the passion is the key ingredient, because you will be spending countless hours working on your product and building the audience, and so on. And now that we came to audience, another point is understand, like, know your audience, understand who they are, know where they hang out online, how to reach out to them, determining your voice, are all the key ingredients to make sure that what you have to offer to the world, people are, the audience is there, and you know how to put that message across toward your target customers.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. What are the main features of e-commerce, and what advantages does it give a small business? Obviously, we know on the top line the macro thing, but in your perspective.
Right. So 3 key ingredients or features, as you call them, I would say low barrier to entrance, simplicity, and unlimited potential, right? So low barrier to entrance, again, a lot of platforms there that are capable, that are agile, that are fast and cheap to use. Simplicity, again, it's very easy. With no coding skills, you can get up and running in no time. When I say unlimited potential, I mean, both from the perspective of international expansion, only the sky is the limit, because now from your, bedroom or living room, you can target pretty much the whole world, and your audience or your customers can come from anywhere, right? So if you compare that to having a retail store, like high-end street retail store, where you're only limited to number of persons that are passing by. That tells you the scope of potential there is. Another thing that is connected to running an e-commerce store or business today are different sales channels that can be connected to your store. And when I say sales channels, I think of Google, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and all of those sales channels integrate with e-commerce platforms in a way where your audience doesn't need to necessarily they don't need to come to your website necessarily to make a purchase, but they can purchase straight from Google, straight from Facebook, straight from or within Facebook, within Instagram, within TikTok. And that's a huge opportunity, and it makes it super easy for e-commerce brands to keep close to their audience and to sell where their audience is versus navigating them back to their website.
Yeah, there's some key things. I hope people took some notes there. And then the next question for you is, what are your best tips and tricks on increasing sales?
Super. So if you can pull that little
yeah, I can pull it up.
photo there for me.
Indeed. Yes, here we go.
So when it comes to increasing sales, there are three main areas that we can look at, right? One is conversion, one is retention, and one is traffic. Right. So e-commerce brands usually cope with each one of those stages that directly influence sale as the end result. So if we look at conversion rates, for example, and this is a conversation that I often have with even the strong brands that are doing hundreds of millions of euros in revenue yearly, because all small movements in conversion rates can impact sales at the end of the day. And this is something that I wanted to show you as we speak of conversion rates and increasing sales. It is important to understand how conversion rates happen or how they evolve, because usually people say, hey, conversion rate, like in this case, is 1.83%, which you can see top right corner there. But understanding this 3 steps of checkout help us understand where the improvements can be made. In this case, 3 step of, or in every case, 3 step of checkout are add to cart step. So from visitors to add to cart, that's 1 step. From add to cart to reach checkout, so people who land on checkout page, that's the 2nd step. And then the 3rd step are people who actually check out and make a purchase, right? So on the top of this screen, you see goals for each step. And those are the percentages that are common to all great performing brands online. So brands that are performing really, really well, 10 to 11% of their audience are adding to cart. Out of that number, 55 to 65 reach checkout, and out of that number, 75 to 85% checkout actually. Right? So when trying to optimize that, looking at each of those steps help us understand what exact actions we need to undertake. And in this particular example, right, we see that a brand had 208,000 sessions over the course of 11 months, and only 4.57% converted or added to cart. And definitely compared to the goal number, there is a huge room for improvement. Then add to cart number for this particular brand is 59, almost 60%, compared to 55, 65 goal, which is right in the middle, bang on. And then next step, last step, 67 compares to 75, 85. So for this particular brand, my focus would be, or my suggestion will always go, you don't spend time on trying to improve step number 2 and step number 3 because they're performing well. It can always get better, but let's leave that for later. Like for the moment, what we can concentrate on, like all the activities that we can do, or strategies or tactics that we can do to get people to add to cart more frequently, or to increase that number. And then, how to do that is a completely different conversation. But the point here is that everything can be broken down into actionable steps, rather than trying to change everything at the same time.
I love that. Love that. Definitely something that the audience can definitely learn from and appreciate. I really like the way that you also gave us those goals, targets on top. It's something that I never really think about often, and I can maybe utilize in my own e-commerce side hustles as well. I want to thank you for that contribution. I'll be bringing you back up in a moment. I don't know if there's anything else you want to say or share before I bring you back up for the general Q&A.
Super. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Right. Next up, we have Sophie. Sophie's coming right up while Sophie gets ready. I read out your bio earlier. I hope I didn't butcher it. But I know that your business started as a side hustle, and it's now a fast growing baby food subscription company, if not the fastest, I believe. How does it feel to have been on that journey? A lot of people, have dreams of starting businesses. They start something small at home while struggling their career or family life. But yeah, have you had a pinch me moment yet in terms of the fact that you get to do business full time?
I think I'm definitely recently have certainly felt that. And I think especially like being on a panel like this, I never set out to have necessarily an e-commerce business. Mamamade started as like an Instagram hustle. And it was only sort of out of necessity of needing to manage everything that we set up a Shopify site with a subscription plugin. So for me, I'm kind of coming from the perspective of having made like every single possible mistake first, and then taking every learning that way, the hard way, because that's sort of how we've gotten to where we are. So much different than the sort of, very disciplined approach that Zlatko has just put forward, which is extremely helpful. But yeah, certainly lots of learnings that I'm excited to share.
I love that. And obviously you don't have to reveal the secret sauce, but what was your process of actually doing product development? This is something that people always find hard, because some of us are perfectionists and we make something really sick, and some of us just, slap bang, put something out there. But there's a sweet balance, right, in getting something that is of a great standard that gets people coming back and back and back again. Have you changed your process in terms of how you develop products? Did you go learn how to develop products somewhere? Was something that your co-founder did whilst you did the other side? Just talk us through a bit about the substance behind, becoming a fast growing company. I think the product side of things is so important.
That's a really good point, because, when we think about growth and how we grow, at the same time, the product needs to be able to keep up with it. And that's something that I certainly never considered, of like, you need to be able to meet that demand. And we've definitely had moments where like, the kitchen turns to me being like, can you pump the brakes, please? Because we need to figure out how we can do this. So we've definitely had certain breaking points where, Mamamade started in my kitchen. It started with me making everything myself, from vegetables that you would find from like, Waitrose or M&S. And that was purely just to get something out and start testing it, as you say, like, and of course it depends on what the product is. This is a food product. It's designed for babies, but within, it's a relatively low risk product that I was able to do for my house. And so very easily was able to get out sort of like an MVP, a minimal viable product. And then it's been a constant process of iteration. So even now, like, I'm not satisfied with where our product is versus where we know we can be with it. So it's at each stage, it's sort of finding the experts, but also speaking to the real experts, which are the customers. So I see sort of every product we sell, to some element, it's open for change based on the feedback that we get from our community, from the people using it. And to stay agile like that, I think has been, in a way, maybe our secret sauce, because we're able to churn things out quite quickly, improve really quickly, get rid of products that aren't performing, put in products that people tell us they want to buy, and just keep pushing forward.
I love that. That's very relatable. The feedback loop is such an important part that people always forget. had a food festival last summer, and the only way we were able to kind of deliver food every week across the UK was by getting feedback from our customers. Like, is our time all right? Do you guys want the stuff that we've got up on the marketplace? So a great segue into one of my big questions I actually sent you before, which is, what do you wish you knew now? What do you know now that you wish you knew when you started?
100%. I think it is that feedback loop, and it's thinking about that whole funnel and tightening kind of every stage of the funnel, because in the beginning you're so focused on, or at least I was, and I think it's quite common to get as many people in as you can. Like, I want everybody to know about my brand. I want everybody to try it. I want it in as many hands as possible. But finding those customers, once you've got them, how do you make sure that they're staying with you? How do you make sure that they stay loyal, and bringing them not just in that kind of initial funnel of converting them, but also retaining them, and realizing how much growth can come from focusing on retention. That was like a real learning process in terms of tightening up the funnel that we have now.
Sorry, my internet dropped off.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know why you lost me. Waffling on about retention, as sort of equally as important as acquisition. And, you know, knowing that if we can kind of carry on helping parents for as long as possible and keep churning out products that can help them as their babies grow, in a way we can be less worried about acquisition, or at least expensive acquisition. We can keep it relatively manageable, and at the same time kind of focusing out, building that audience, and creating that top of funnel with a really strong community. So you don't have to go out searching for those people that find your product relevant. It's really kind of nurturing an audience in that sense.
Yeah, no, that's some really, really, really important points. Obviously your business does sales like in online. Do you guys have stockists as well now as well?
So we are on Gorillas in London. So one of those 10-minute delivery apps. They've partnered with us to just help parents. That's really our mission, and to get our food into hands as quickly as possible. But for us, the focus is really staying close to the customer. Going back to that initial point about the feedback loop, knowing basically every single person who gets their hands on Mamamade, like today on Friday, every postcode we've hit, that's data that's so valuable to us as a business. And we're not interested in kind of letting up on that anytime soon.
So the question I was going to ask then was, what are some of the disadvantages of an e-commerce as a business model? Because obviously there's loads of positives, but there's a lot of stuff you can't control. Like, you can't just grab some stock from the back storeroom and give it to the customer right when they come. Like, shipments, couriers, logistics, there's so many things that kind of out of your control.
Yeah. And certainly with a food business as well. Like, I keep saying, like, if I was to do this again, I would just do like sweatshirts or something that don't go off, and you just can like have them in a room and then send them off. Doesn't need to be next day. But definitely, like, you have to find your customers. It's not like being in a John Lewis or, somewhere where you get all that foot traffic naturally. You need to go out and take each customer one by one to your storefront. And then once they're there, how do you get them to actually buy your product? So it does take a lot more kind of thoughtful outreach and really crafting the website, which is a storefront effectively, and getting, merchandising it in a way that will be high converting, and continually optimizing that, so that you've got, it comes down to a numbers game of like, if you've got 1,000 people coming to your site, how high can you bump up that percentage of conversion rate? Because that could be the difference of 10 sales, which can make a big difference.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for the honesty. And talking about increasing sales, what are some of your best tips and tricks, or your thoughts on how small business owners can increase their sales?
I think making use of free marketing channels. So like for Mamamade, it started as an Instagram business, and that continues to be our #1 traction channel. I think a lot of times people look for that kind of silver bullet when it comes to digital ads or display or whatever it might be, but actually just going to where your customers might already be, which very likely is a social media platform. So if it's TikTok, which Little Moons, last year basically, transformed their business by making these videos. For Mamamade, it's 100% Instagram. That's where moms are hanging out these days, and finding the influencers that love what we're doing and are happy to work with us for free, because, we're offering them a service in return for the support. So I think it's not overcomplicating either that traction channel. It's not overcomplicating really anything. Like, think small and just go really deep on it. That's definitely my advice.
Oh, love that. It's been really, really good having you on the panel. I'm gonna bring up Andy and then bring you back up for the main Q&A bit. Thanks, Sophie.
Oh, thanks so much.
Hello, Andy.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing really good, man. Thank you for joining us today.
No problem. I'm gonna have to apologise because I've had to make a last-minute ditch attempt to get to the Netherlands, so I'm waiting for a ferry, and I'm just trying to get the best. No one wants to see my 25 chins, so I'm trying to work out the lighting in the car, which I've sort of got there.
I think you're doing all right. You're doing all right.
Yeah, I think the 4G is sort of holding out right now, so I appreciate this is probably not the best quality video and setup you're probably going to see tonight, but nonetheless we're here, and I think that's the important thing.
As long as you provide the value, and I think it's a true testament to entrepreneurship, right? Like there are deals to be done, and there are things that need to happen, and sometimes I always say in 10 years of business, no week is the same. I have plans, but sometimes those plans go out the window.
That definitely probably a similar sort of thought process to you there, that it doesn't matter what you're doing, where you're going, that the plan always needs to change and adapt. And I think that's critical, because you can't be in business if you don't.
So talking about being in business, from your bio, you've been in business for many, many years. You've successfully expanded businesses in new markets for 15 years. You help businesses currently look at opportunities in new markets, which is why you're probably heading to Netherlands. You love working with US-based companies, bring them over to EU generally. In your perspective, when you think about the world of e-commerce and you think about the opportunities that are still to come, we're now talking about the metaverse a lot. What excites you about the power of e-commerce and the power of selling products directly to consumers?
I think the thing that excites me most is speed. And I've never been someone to sit still and just chill out and just take life easy. And I've always been the one to tackle the hard things first. Right? I just love doing things. When someone says to me, we'll put that in the too difficult category, like that's where I shine. Yeah. And the thing that excites me about e-commerce is everything at the moment specifically is fast, and everything is too difficult. And I don't mean as in it's difficult to do. What I mean is logistics is difficult. Amazon's difficult. There's lots of obstacles and hurdles that you have to overcome depending on your route to market. And we've only got to see, the pandemic has been epic because it's catapulted e-commerce brands into the realms of everybody, right? But the downside to that is it's pushed the shipping price 10 times what it was. So the cost of getting a container from China into the UK is 10 times what it was 2 years ago. Like, you just can't possibly fathom that it's $20,000 now, but it was $2,000. Like, it's just epic. The speed in which e-commerce evolves and changes is just epic, and that for me is the one word that I love about it. It's just epic. Like, it just, it's just, if you want to stay alive and move in e-commerce and be successful, the only way you do that is by adapting, evolving. I think that Sophie said, something she said was, there's no silver bullet. No, that's totally true. There's no silver bullet. It is just hard work. And it doesn't matter how many gurus out there will tell you that you can do a course and do this, and this. Like, reality just isn't like that. Like, no one's got a silver bullet. And occasionally, very occasionally, someone comes along with this magic product that just goes bam, and that's it. But that's where it goes. So I don't know if that was a long-winded answer saying that, but that's where you go.
The truth. I love it. It's about being epic and speed. I'll ask all of the panelists this as well, and I'm waiting to get from you. But what are things that you wish you knew when you started? It could just be with this current business. It could be generally in the industry. But what are things you know now that you use every day, or that really informs how you make decisions that someone can just implement in their life today?
I think the number one thing that you, having been employed at some point and having started businesses in the last decade, I think the number one thing that I wish I'd done sooner was educate myself. Educate myself in a whole host, whether it's being on a webinar or whether it's listening to a podcast or reading a book or what. To be honest, it doesn't really matter what it is, as long as it excites you and you're willing to listen and you're willing to learn. What comes off the back of that is further ideas, further information, further guidance, further confirmation. There's so many things that, I went to school and thought education was probably not for me, right? And, what I've learned in the last decade is that education isn't about maths, English, science, history, geography. Like, that's just not life. And whilst some of those core skills are very valuable to life, I get that, the majority aren't. The big thing is what you learn after school. So how do you educate yourself after that and your business? And it doesn't matter whether you've got a business now or you want a business in the future, or whether you have no inspiration to start a business, but it's the value you can offer your company or your business, because you'll be a better version of you tomorrow than you are today by educating yourself, even by the smallest of margins. And you, whoever you are listening and whatever you do, can take a huge amount of comfort from the fact that you're aspiring to be a better person tomorrow than you are today. And let's be honest, we don't all get there. We don't all do that. But that's, for me, regardless of e-commerce or anything, that's it, without any shadow of a doubt.
Love it. Love it. Absolutely love that. What would you say are some of the key metrics that e-commerce businesses should be tracking? We've obviously spoke a little bit earlier about conversion rates and how that can be very powerful. But is there any other things that you like to always look at when you're growing a business internationally or here nationally?
Yeah, I think that from an international point of view, one of our core strengths is expanding businesses into Europe. That's what we do. So we take an e-commerce brand and we expand it into Europe, especially post-Brexit. We focused a lot of our time and effort on 90% of our business before Brexit was all US-based businesses expanding into Europe, because that included the UK and Europe. Obviously, post-Brexit in the new world, every seller you speak to in the UK is like, I've just given up in Europe. It's just too difficult. The reality is, it's actually quite easy, as long as someone's got the structure, the pathway and the process for you to follow to make that happen. And when you're looking at that, what are those key metrics? What are those key things you need to look at? Well, when you're doing cross-border e-commerce, you've got to look at the currency. You've got to look at the fine details and the small margins that make a difference. And my background is sport, performance sports. And one of the things that we learned from British cycling, if you like, was marginal gains. I come back from British sailing background, and everything's about marginal gains. And e-commerce really is no different. It's about what are the marginal gains that you can get for your business, whether it's 0.5% on currency conversion, 0.5% on this, 0.5% here. If you've got 5 places you can take 0.5% on, you don't get 2.5%. You get a multi-factor of 7 or 8%, depending on where that follows through in your business. So it's looking at taking everything you do and looking at all the different areas where you can make those marginal gains. Don't just follow, just try and get 10% off my manufacturer, because you won't get it. But actually, if you can reduce 0.5% here and 0.5% there, it's the marginal gains that make the difference, not just the big things. Because as you build your e-commerce brand and business, it's then eking out all the little bits. And Forex trading, moving money across the border is absolutely critical to the success of your brand, because Amazon will charge you 6%, but you could get it done for 1%. Like, that's huge.
Yeah.
So marginal gains, where is it to give from a cross-border point of view, where you can get the best, currency conversion, outside of that, conversion, I totally agree, is critical. Like that's the number one metric. What's your conversion? How many people are you getting through? But off the back of that, it's the marginal gains in other areas.
I love that. Solid advice. There's obviously people looking to grow over the next couple of months. People looking to start out I wanted to just tackle a bit about the growth. So you've started a page. You might have 0 people following, coming maybe just your mom, your dad, your missus, whoever in your family. What are some of the tips that you have that you and your team think about when you're looking to expand into a new market or looking to grow? Yeah, that's the question.
Okay, I mean, expanding into a new market, we've developed a
let's
7-step.
Let's say you're in a market and you're looking to grow. So you just launched, but you're looking to grow.
Okay, so you're in a market, you're looking to grow. Okay, I think the first thing is, have you identified your target market? Who is the target market you're trying to sell your product to? And it's about switching the mentality from how many widgets can I sell to how can I best serve the community to give them what they need. And off the back of that, then selling the product to solve their problem. It's who's the target market, what age they look, what does that avatar actually look like of who that person you're trying to sell the widget to? Because I think Sophie had a good point about, who she was targeting and what that looks like. And I think that's really, really important. It's about who you target your marketing to, because we all want to say, okay, I've got said widget and I'm going to target this to, men or women. Like, it doesn't really work like that. You really want to niche down. So niche. So, you might say, okay, I've got, I don't know, let's take, I've got a journal, right? I've got a journal, so a little notebook. And who is my target market? My target market is it male or female, right? So let's take female. Who is the person who's going to do, what do they actually look like? Is it a 25-year-old? Is it a 35-year-old? Is it, what do they look like? Where are they likely to hang around? Where's the target market, going? There's key things you want. You want, who's your market? Where are they hanging around? And what's the bait to get them? So, if it's a 40-year-old guy who is hanging around Harwich Port to get on a ferry, what Facebook groups or Instagram accounts are they going to be following and interacting with? What forums are they going to be on? And what is the bait that's going to attract them to your product? Now, that's very generic if you're selling on a website. It's very different if you're selling on a marketplace. So, if you are selling on a website, you can start building traffic, getting free traffic by using a bait, using some form of lead magnet, if you like, in order to attract your target audience, because you need to build a community around what you're doing in order to sell your product. The best brands that we see that are successful right now are those that have a community, those that have a following, and those that give value to their audience. And it's about understanding who they are, where they're hanging around, and the best lead magnet for it.
Absolutely. Lots of gems there. Thank you for that, Andy. I think it's a great time to segue and bring everyone else up back on the stage. If I could have Sophie and Zlatko come up, that would be great. All right, guys, we're going to open up the floodgates to questions. I've got a couple of questions here on the YouTube. I'm looking at a couple of questions here on the Zoom as well. Because you guys are on the Zoom, we're going to start with you guys first. I think some of the questions have already been answered, I can see. But yeah, one of the first questions I was going to ask was for you, Sophie. It was an individual had asked, they know that you grew your following and exposure with no marketing spend at all. Can you clarify if that's true? And I just wanted to ask how you managed to do this. So how did you market in your first year, essentially?
Yeah, for the first year, there was absolutely no marketing spend. It was all via Instagram, which again is just a brilliant marketing tool. If you start to see it as that, TikTok, you can see the same, YouTube, you can see the same. To get that early traction, you don't need to put any spend behind. And to Andy's point, it's really, for us, it was building out content that I personally wanted to read as like someone who's like found the kind of product founder market fit. It was content that I was hoping to engage with, and then that kind of created a sort of inherent shareability and virality that then built out an audience. And so for us, yeah, exactly to Andy's point, we've built out a community of about 40,000 parents who are engaging with our content on various channels now. And yeah, just not to kind of underestimate the power of that. It does take a bit more time, I suppose. But at the same time, the reward is really great because you get to know exactly what sticks and what's hitting, and then you can just keep doing more of that, basically.
Love that. The next question I had was, what is the best way to get your business up in Google searches? SEO question. Anyone want to tackle this question? Go on, Vlad.
I can try to get a stab at that one.
Go on.
So yeah, a couple of ways really, and none of them is easy, as you probably know. So when presenting search results, Google is trying to be as relevant as possible, and they can do that by understanding, what your business is about, and whether the result will be relevant to a particular search. So that means that you need to make it comes down to SEO, as BJ mentioned. Obviously, it's down to writing or creating a copy and indexing it in a proper way, so Google, when it crawls your website, can understand what it is about and can use keywords that describe not only your product but also your audience and buying intention, right? So this is something good to keep in mind as you write copy. And back to Andy's point earlier, understanding your audience, understanding the demographics, and using the keywords that connect that demographic with your brand, that Google then can search. Other really important thing is our backlinks. They were more popular earlier than these days, but it's always really important to have different sources around internet to refer to your website. This tells Google, oh, this is something of relevance, because there are 10 different other sources that can be a blog, that can be a different site, that are referring back to your source. So that increases the chances of being surfaced in Google search as well. And then the third one that I would mention here is social proof. And when I say social proof, that would be reviews for the most part. Anything that tells Google from a third party, which are your customers in this case, that are singing praises about your brand, which again, independent parties that are telling Google, hey, this is what we have to say about it. It's very positive, and that means the source is credible.
Love that. Anyone else want to chip in before asking this question? Perfect, all good. Maybe this question directed to Andy. Someone's asked, if they've already identified their target audience and they're trying to implement a social media strategy with content, how do they measure results? I mean, anyone can answer this actually. And what they're specifically asking is, how do they create the right content for their target audience?
Well, I think the one measure is how many products you're selling. Like, regardless of all, it doesn't matter how much content, how much marketing, how anything, all of that is almost irrelevant if you're trying to make an income from it. The number one result is how much you're selling, and it doesn't matter how much engagement you get, how many clicks you get, how many likes. It's irrelevant. The number one measure is how many products are you selling. It's then about creating the right content to engage the audience, which Sophie, I think you'd probably have a great, with 40,000 people in your community. I think that you'd probably be best placed to answer that for that. I mean, that's how I would look at it. Number one measure, how many products you're selling. But community wise, Sophie, over to you.
I think there's a few ways to measure it. And I think that's sort of what always, from someone who spends a lot of time on social media, it always feels irritating when someone sort of blames the algorithm or something for their content not being seen. Because at the end of the day, people are engaging with content that they find interesting and content that feels relevant to them. And a lot of it is just testing and learning and not being afraid to put things out. I know that's certainly the case with TikTok, although I'm just getting my head around that. But with Instagram, it is, these tools have analytics built into them that can be extremely powerful. There's other tools that we use, like something called Loud Crowd, where we can measure how many people are actually speaking about the brand, are sharing about the brand, are referring friends based on that. So building out a stack of analytical tools that can help you see what yeah, what are people enjoying engaging with? You know, for us, it came down to simple things like schedules, like wanting to know a schedule for my 7-month-old, 8-month-old, 9. I mean, there's not much difference, but these infographics do incredibly well. And so it's just churning out more of that. Video doing really well, doing more of that. You have to have some tolerance to fail, and just to find out what doesn't work and then keep pushing forward with what does work.
Okay.
Well, can I just add one thing on there? I think that's really important, that consistency is the key part.
Mm.
You know, don't be put off that you did it once and you didn't get a result. If you think how many, let's say you watch Netflix or other programs are available, you know, how many series did you find at season 3, 4, or 5 that you thought, how did I not find out about this before? You know, so don't be put off that, you know, if when you start out, you're not getting the response you want or need or would like. Consistency is the key to build that. Otherwise, you just end up quitting too soon. You know, just think about the Netflix that you've watched at series 4 and thought, how did I not find out about this 3 years ago?
Yeah, big facts. Good content always lives on further and further. And there's some really awesome examples of businesses where people didn't know them for the first 1, 2, 3, 4 years, but they told that story in resilience, and over time it's done well. Some of us smash it in the first year, but some of us it takes 10 years to be a 1-minute success, I suppose. A question I wanted to pop in there for everyone in the chat here is, and I didn't really get a chance to ask you guys this in individual thing, but what are some things that you guys see that people get wrong when approaching e-commerce? So for example, I'll go first, something that my business has done in the past, which I always try to avoid, but you know, you always have a shiny toy object when you're building, is having way too many product lines. You know, you've not built an audience yet, and we've just like, okay, we're going to need like 10 colorways of this, or we're going to need 10 different options of that. And you haven't even had a chance to build that relationship with the customer to find out what's going on. And I always meet entrepreneurs who sometimes want to do stuff in spaces I've been in, and they're wanting to tell me about this whole big collection and there's no customer they're selling to yet. So that's something that I've learned from doing. But yeah, are there other things that you guys have seen, maybe you've done personally, or your clients you guys have done, where you're like, a regular pattern that you just wish entrepreneurs stop doing?
I mean, there's probably 2 things that I see. One is too much stock, exactly. You know, whether that's too much stock too soon, you know, the wrong type of stock, whatever, overstock, and then going out of stock, and that process of inventory, having the right inventory at the right time for everything. I think that's the number one thing. And I think the second thing is patience. I don't think people have got enough patience around their e-commerce. They think that they saw a guru do it online once and they said they can make 100 grand in a week within 3 months, and they haven't done it. The reality is that's not the story that everyone has. And you've got to be patient, and you've got to be willing to make it happen slowly and build a brand successfully. So take patience and make sure your inventory and stock count is really, really key.
Love that. Anyone go next?
Do you want to go next, Sophie?
You go for it, Zlatko.
Okay, thanks for that. So the main mistake I'm seeing over and over again, like people spending fortune on acquiring traffic that is not relevant and that doesn't convert and that they can't afford. And that in combination with insane discounting, all for the sake of attracting new customers, lead people to get excited about the revenue and not counting the profits, right? And then you see like really short spikes in attention. There is some conversion because of discounting, and then those guys are not loyal customers. They don't come back, and then have issues attracting traffic again, and then the whole thing goes down. Compared to the approach that Sophie mentioned there in her own example, which is building a business on the back of engagement with the audience in Instagram, understanding the real need, understanding the connection, having that voice that her audience understands. And this is where it all starts on a small scale, right? And once we are able to attract that one customer who is happy and who see the value and is looking forward to tell everybody else about their experience, this is where businesses start to flourish. And this is down to patience. And then in the long run, it makes sense to invest into digital ads and into different ways to enlarge your audience. But the main mistake by far that I saw with working with many brands is they're just too eager to get started too soon and just overspend their budget too soon.
Been there, been there many times. Sophie, yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to mistakes that we made with pleasure, namely trying to overcomplicate our site. I think in the beginning, having this concept of what we wanted to do to support parents and it being so much more than just the food product and wanting to plug in the support element and how do we do that. And in the end, we ended up with this site that was extremely confusing, to be honest. And it didn't present a clear, purchase funnel for the audience. So to Zlatko's point, we had really high traffic numbers and a really poor conversion rate. I mean, really poor. And so we had to end up putting the brakes on everything and kind of rebuilding the site just based on very basics. So that's my big thing. Don't try to rework the wheel. Look at sites maybe in your industry or adjacent industries that you've maybe purchased from, and that's been a very smooth process for you where you enjoy the post, that whole, maybe it's 2-step, maybe it's a 3-step process, and iterate on that and don't try to be overly creative like we did, because it just didn't work.
It's not easy. It's not easy. We've got a question that's come in here is, do you think you need to be on multiple social media channels to really effectively market your products? This is it's a big question. I suppose we all have in our personal lives, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. As a small business owner, it's even more intense, right? Because you're head of product, head of HR, head of legal, everything. But not everyone has to answer this, but whoever feels like connected to answer it. But do you think you need to be on multiple social media channels to really effectively market your products?
I think you need to be where your target audience is. Exactly. Where is your target audience hanging out? Who is your target audience? Where are they hanging around? Like what we said a moment ago, if you know your audience is, you know where they're hanging out, that's where you need to be. And don't say, well, everyone's on all of them, because they're not. Yeah. So you need to think about your audience, your product, who's buying your product, and effectively be on that channel and be epic at one. We're all guilty of trying to be epic everywhere, and all we end up being is average at some of them.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think it's going deep, finding that one traction channel that's getting you sales and going, all the way to the bottom of it until you've sort of used it all up. But if your audience is that's where they're hanging out, then just keep going there. I mean, I can speak to us. We've got different objectives for the business based on different channels. But for us, Instagram is our sales channel. That is where we're converting. And when we're on other platforms like LinkedIn or TikTok, the objectives are slightly different. So definitely starting out, you don't need to overcomplicate anything. As Andy says, just be where your customer is and go all in.
I agree to what is said here on this topic. Another thing to consider when considering different social media channels is the engagement involved to develop a successful profile, right? Which is down to being engaged with your audience, that not only comments on your own posts, but being engaged on posts of your followers. And with a bigger followers base, it gets very, very busy, and it can take hours a day just to manage that properly, right? So the people feel heard out and they engage with the brand in the right way. To multiply that on a different channel, it becomes increasingly difficult, and it takes a lot of time. So down to both Andy's and Sophie's point, understand what is the main, where your audience hang out, and what works best for your audience, and concentrate on that one channel to start with, and just be epic there.
I love that. I love that. Be epic and go for it.
Yeah.
It's been an hour. It's gone so quickly. I could talk to you guys all individually for more longer, and we should definitely catch up again, as there's a lot of support our entrepreneurs on our network need. I suppose I like to always end things with a bit of a different thing. I think mindset is something that's going to be very important as we enter the cold months around the world. Is there any piece of advice, any statement, or something that's a mantra that you guys go back to that kind of inspires and helps keep you guys going? Because I know leadership can be a lonely thing where everyone wants something from you. I'll happily go first, and then I'd like to go around the room and we'll close on a high. So I think a mantra I say to myself all the time is, I can, I will, I must. So even if something is really difficult, I'm going to try it. I must try it. Why not? And through that, things happen. You learn something changes. But that attitude of actually it starts with me, ends with me. Whatever's not in my control is not in my control. But I can, I will, I must. As an attitude, especially in the mornings before lunchtime, I find it works for me. Who wants to go next?
That's great.
Sophie, do you want to go next?
Yeah, why not? I know for me, like juggling not only a team now of like 13 people, but I've got a family with 2 small kids. I'm often stretched in sort of every which way. And so for me, it's definitely, self-care isn't selfish. I need to engage in activities that, force me to be calm and refill my cup. And that's not, it's because all these people around me require me to be in that space. As a business owner, as a founder, as a leader, my job is to make decisions, and I need to have a clear head to be able to do that. So yeah, just anytime where I feel like, oh, I don't know if I can do that, that class or that, go to sleep early, just reminding myself it's not selfish. Like it's actually a business and family need if I want to be a good mother and a good boss. So
Love that.
Fine.
Okay. Who wants to go next? Andy?
Yeah, happy to. Yeah.
Andy.
I think the key thing for me is routine. So what is your routine? What does that look like for you? And what is to keep you moving forward? What's your ultimate goal? So, I have a 10-year plan, vision, if you like, that I'm executing. And the ultimate goal is to own a boat called Valshida. Valshida's this 1934 America's Cup yacht. Is 140 foot long. Like it's like 20 million quid. Like it might happen, it might not. I have no idea. Would I love it to? Of course I would. Like that's my ultimate goal. So I've got something that's ultimately driving me forward of where I want to get to. But sometimes you can have goals so big that you don't know how you're going to get there. It doesn't matter. You've got to keep moving forward. And what I do is I have a routine virtually every day that I go through. I get up at 5:30. I get to the gym at 6. I leave the gym at 7:30. I'm in work by 7:45. And at 7:45 for 15 minutes, I sit down and write down my 10-year goals, my 1-year goals, and my business plan for this year. So I'm totally focused every single day on what my 10-year goals are, my 1-year goal, and my goals of what I need to get done today. And that way, I'm totally focused every single day on, yes, I have an ultimate goal to own this amazing piece that will probably never happen. But the reality is that that's what I'm driving for. And if I can, it's too difficult to work back from there to say, well, how are you going to afford a 20 million quid yacht? Well, just sometimes you're just so far away from some of those things that it's just, you're not going to get there. But as those years have gone on, we're in 3rd year of that 10-year plan. We're hitting all of those goals as we go through and actually bettering a lot of them. And that's because I'm razor focused on them every day. I write them down every day, and I physically write them down every day. So I've got my goals I write down, just jot them down, have a routine. And then, like Sophie just said, you've got to be present all the time. So part of that routine is being in bed till 10 o'clock at night. I know that's a bit dull, and I know that's a bit boring, and that's just how it is. But that way I get me 8 hours sleep, or 7.5 that I need, and I'm ready for the next day. That's it, done. And I think it's super important that people recognize that that's what you need. You need routine, you need focus, and you need an ultimate goal. And that's what works for me.
Love that. And Zlatko?
And that's really powerful. I can completely relate what Andy said there. Like, just set up a goal that scares you almost, and break it down into actionable steps, like daily steps, and show up every day, no matter what. Bad day or good day, showing up is what counts. For me, somewhat similar what Andy said at the beginning. When somebody tells me that something can't be done, like, I just go, like, watch this, and make it my mission, just to make it happen. And obviously, starting anything from scratch and bringing anything new to the world is very difficult, and you are faced with the most closest people around you, from family to friends. They will be the first to say, hey, that's not going to work, so all the people who have the drive to bring something and create a success have that inner desire to overcome obstacles day in, day out. And I think that over time, at least that's the case for me, it becomes a driver on its own. It's kind of, you almost search for, things for the difficult things to solve first. And I definitely feed of those kind of things. And this is, why I like to attack difficult things and think of big and try to solve big problems. Yeah. So that definitely, gets me excited to get out of the bed in the morning.
Wow. Well, you're all trailblazers. You're all doing interesting things, and so much to learn from all of you. I want to thank you all for your time today. And I'm sure it won't be the last time we connect. For everyone tuning in, I hope you guys have enjoyed this conversation. I hope we've answered as many questions as possible. And I hope you guys all have productive Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and Christmas sales coming up. The rest of this month, we have got weekly shows. We've got topics around how to create and buy NFTs. We've got stuff around actually preparing around the Black Friday sales period in particular. And then we've got content around the creator economy. We are always open for free to help you guys. I hope everyone has a safe night. And thank you again for tuning in. Bye, guys.
Thank you.